Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday, 5th of September 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news. And we got sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates. And the newsmakers in person this evening. Manx Care is heading for a near £30 million overspend. The first abortion statistics since legalisation was published. Liberal van backs renewables and green energy. The Football League structure change latest, and if you're enjoying the weather, apparently this is Tom Jones weather. Yes, it's not unusual.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster My Dave Moore.
Faster My pay awards and increasing costs are among the factors behind a forecast overspend at Manx Care. The health body says it's currently expecting to be almost £30 million over budget for the 2023-24 financial year. The Department of Infrastructure says a complete examination is being carried out after a light aeroplane landed on the wrong runway at Ronaldsway a year ago. It happened on August 29th, 2022 and is also under the scrutiny of the Air Accident Investigation Branch. Education, Sport and Culture Minister Julie Edge has revealed her department paid for 20 additional cover supervisors in the last academic year. Tomorrow, pupils are set to return to the classrooms for the start of the new school term. Elsewhere, anyone convicted of supplying nitrous oxide in the UK could be jailed for 14 years. Laughing gas, as it's known, is to be made illegal by the end of the year, with users potentially facing 2 years behind bars. 10 people have been taken to hospital after a bus crash in West Wales. A major incident was declared after the 52-seater and another vehicle collided at Pembroke Dock. And many more jobs are going at Wilko as 52 stores prepare to close. More than 1,300 additional employees are being made redundant, including workers at 2 warehouses. Those are the Update News headlines. The next bulletin is at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Thank you, Dave. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, no wind warning in operation for the North Arrow Sea. State of sea is smooth or slight. And the weather this evening, dry with late sunshine, a light to moderate easterly, clear skies after dark in a light southeasterly breeze, but down to 14 degrees through the night. For Crane, dry and sunny and a light to moderate southeasterly, possible coastal mist or fog around southern and western coast tomorrow. 21 Celsius top temperature, clear overnight, minimum 16. And for Jardine, possible isolated showers at first on Thursday. Dry and sunny, then light easterly breeze and up to 22 Celsius. Sunsets tonight at 8:08, low water 13 minutes past 10. High tide 20 past 4 a.m. Sunrise is at 26 minutes before 7. Low water tomorrow morning at 9 minutes before 11. And there's a delay on tonight's EasyJet Gatwick.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com.
The Royal College of Nursing Union has confirmed its members on the Isle of Man will once again take strike action over pay as nurses working for Manx Care strike from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. a week on Thursday, the 14th of September. They'll also take action from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday, the 18th and Thursday, the 19th of October. You'll get more details as we hear it. Pay awards and increasing costs are among the factors behind a forecast overspend of almost £30 million at Manx Care this year. The healthcare body says it's currently expecting to be £27.2 million over budget for the 23-24 financial year. Here's Sean Cowper.
Manx Care published an updated set of figures as part of its agenda for this week's board meeting. The accounts show a forecast overspend of £27.2 million, but Manx Care says it's expecting a sum to be approved from the Department of Health and Social Care's reserve, which will reduce that total to £22.2 million. An expected pay award for for Manx Care employees above 2% is among the pressures on the board's budget, with Manx Care stating this accounts for £7.2 million of the overspend. Meanwhile, staffing costs for the year to date are so far £0.9 million over budget. The board's Finance, Performance and Commissioning Committee also cites an increased spend of £24.4 million compared to a budget increase of £20 million. The committee's report says the overspend is a concern and has escalated it to the Manx Care board.
The chair of Liberal Vannin political parties disputed Michael District Commissioner's claim that wind turbines will be just as bad in Druidale as they would in the south of the island. Paul Wetherall's party backs the plans for renewable and green energy, but says environmental reports need to be taken into account. Our local Democracy reporter Emma Draper spoke to Paul Wetherall.
We believe that there needs to be some onshore wind generation. So yes, in principle, the two proposals that the MUA have put forward, they've taken expert advice and decided that there are two sites on the island that best meet the requirements, and they are now considering which of those two sites they'll be taking forward. As far as the two sites are concerned, Liberal Vannin's view is that both have merits and both have disadvantages, and we wait to see what the outcome of the other investigations by Manx Utilities delivers. The Erie Staines site, I think, is the best one in terms of wind power generation, but it impacts more people. The site up at Druidale is a bit more remote, and it won't affect so many people. Given project management on various other things in the last few years, I'll be surprised if the wind turbines are actually up and running in 2026. The government has declared a climate emergency a few years ago. I think, developing onshore wind is long overdue. So I think there is some urgency to get a wind farm established. Due process should take place. There'll be environmental impact assessments taking into account. And as I say, the actual way in which materials are going to be brought to either of the sites needs to be fully considered, and the impact on local residents and the countryside as part of that.
If you have a news story for Manx Radio to investigate and report, email newsroom@manxradio.com or call 682 631 any time of day or night.
Faster Mike, good evening. 23 minutes before 6 this Tuesday evening on the Isle of Man. 300 abortions were carried out on the Isle of Man between 2020 and 2021. These are the first statistics to be published since abortion became legal on the island in 2019. That story from Rhiann Evans.
The Isle of Man Abortion Reform Act 2019 makes it legal for women to have a termination up to 24 weeks gestation. This can be carried out during the first 14 weeks, should they choose, and from 15 weeks onwards with medical opinion. Because this is a recent change to the law here, this analysed data is the first available from 2 full years to properly compare. What it shows is the number of Manx women needing to go to England or Wales for the procedure, be that medical or surgical, dropping dramatically. Also, the number of Manx residents having legal abortions increase, with them now being available on island. In 2020, there were 137 abortions notified in the Isle of Man, and in 2021, there were 163. Compare that with the data available since 2010, where the highest total was 128 Manx residents registering an abortion in a given year. In 2020, the age group with the highest number of abortions in the Isle of Man was those between 25 and 29, and the ratio was 211 out of every 1,000 live births. 96% were carried out fewer than 14 weeks gestation. Meanwhile, in 2021, the highest number of abortions were carried out with women aged 20 to 24, and the ratio was 239 out of 1,000 live births, with 99% carried out in the first 14 weeks. In both years, the majority of women said it was their first abortion. Future reports, Public Health says, will aim to include 3-year trend analysis on this data as a method of analysing longer-term trends, whilst also reducing the impact of expected fluctuations involved in small numbers. You can find a link to the full report at manxradio.com.
More talks have been held in the last week between Manx football clubs and the Isle of Man FA about potentially changing the structure of the Isle of Man's football leagues from the 2024-25 season. So how did the latest meeting go, about ideas. Here's Manx Radio's football correspondent, Tony Mepham.
Yeah, it was a good meeting, to be fair. I chaired the meeting, so I wanted every club to talk about it, to make sure they discussed it with the clubs. They all had. And they all feel that it's got to be investigated, looked at. So now it's being passed on to league management, who will have a look at it and then, come up with ideas to bring in. I think we need to bring some people in who it may affect more. Mid-table Division 2 sides, Combination 1 sides. How do they feel about coming out from Combi 1 and possibly winning Division 2, but then can't go any further? We need to get their thoughts. But yeah, basically all the clubs but 2 are behind it, and we'll sit down, speak to, or speak as a committee and see what we think. We'll come back with, the views from the League Management Committee, and then if it's going to be a proper proposal put forward, and it can be put forward by a club, it can be put forward by the Rules Revision Committee, then that would be discussed at Rules Revision, which is sort of April time next season. So there's plenty of time to sort of find out what we're going to do. But if it's going to increase participation, Rob, then it's certainly got to be considered. Will it work? We don't know. But people feel at the moment that it certainly has to be looked at, and that's what's going to happen.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor vessel Manxman departed Heysham at 23 minutes to 3. She'll be into the bay in the next 20 minutes and on to the Linkspan shortly after 6 o'clock. Departing this evening, Ben McCree goes at 8:15 to Heysham, arriving there just before midnight and departing at 2:15 a.m. back to Douglas at 6. The high-speed craft Manannan departed Douglas at 3:10. She's in the Mersey now, will be on the Linkspan fairly shortly by the Liver building. Departing at 7:15 back to Douglas at 10 tonight. Tomorrow morning's departures, Manxman leaves Douglas at 8:45 for Heysham. Tomorrow morning's departure.
Like the Steam Packet on Facebook for the latest sailing information.
If you're a parent or a guardian, schools go back tomorrow. The new academic year starts tomorrow, and the Education Minister's told Manx Radio relations have improved with the Isle of Man's teaching unions. Over the last 12 months, many students have had their education disrupted by strike action by union members as part of the row over pay, terms and conditions. Here's Education, Sport and Culture Minister Julie Edge, MHK.
I actually think relationships have improved. Obviously, with our unions, we do negotiate with them. Obviously, there has been disputes, which we've managed to sort of move forwards with regards to them. However, we still need to make sure that everything that we're doing it in collaboration with the unions and our staff. My aim is to make sure that we've got that stability in our classrooms. Certainly the teaching framework and responsibility points are there within. So you've got your basic pay for teachers, but then you could take on additional responsibilities. And that's where your paperwork and bureaucracy comes in, that you're managing something to get the additional uplifts in pay. But this, it's not unique to the Isle of Man. However, what we did do last year, we introduced, because there was concerns around the amount of cover that teachers were doing, so then they couldn't focus on doing the lesson plans and workload that they needed for the classroom. So we did provide funding for 20 additional cover supervisors for our schools, and that was to help support with that. But I think it's really important. People might think some of the processes are bureaucratic. However, parents have a right to know what their children are receiving in our schools, and an element of that will require recording and reporting, and that's really important. But also they're loco parentis of 12,000 students every day in our schools, so we do need to make sure that there's stringent processes in place to keep our students safe and secure as well.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, the UK discount retail chain B&M's to buy up to 51 collapsed rival Wilko stores. Wilko fell into administration last month. In a press release, B&M European Value Retail confirmed it had entered into an agreement with Wilko's administrators to buy the shops for up to £13 million. billion. B&M said the consideration is fully funded from existing cash reserves and the acquisition is not expected to be conditional on any regulatory clearances. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookhall.com. Barbie has become the highest-grossing film of 2023, raking in $1.38 billion at the worldwide box office, surpassing the Super Mario Brothers movie. Yet despite the success of Barbenheimer, as it's known, the combination of Barbie and Oppenheimer at the summer box office, the movie industry still faces serious challenges. According to the Axios website, Barbie and Oppenheimer's global box office tally of $2.13 billion covered up a fistful of big-budget flops, including Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Promotion for recently released films has also been significantly hurt by the Hollywood actors and writers' strikes.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookhall.
UK and European stock markets were mixed as a boost from Chinese stimulus measures faded. The dollar rose, oil rose too, lifted by expectations of an extension in supply cuts by leading OPEC Plus producers, and gold slipped as investors sought the US dollar after weak data in China. The numbers now from Ramsey Crookhall. At the close in London, Ramsey Crookhall reporting the FTSE 100 down 0.2% at 7,437. The DAX in Frankfurt down 0.3% at 15,771. America's back in action today after the Labor Day holiday yesterday. The Dow Jones Industrial in New York down 0.2% a short time ago at 34,775. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index in New York down 0.2% at 14,006. And in Chicago, the S&P 500 is down 0.25% at 4,504. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling is trading at $1 25.8 cents, €1 17.2 cents, and 24 South African rand 15.7 cents. In commodities, gold's down 0.6% at $1,926 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude's up 2% at $90.88.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookhall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future. For a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookhall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookhall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
A Douglas man's narrowly avoided being sent to prison after claiming more than £31,000 in benefits he wasn't entitled to. Tessa Hawley from Douglas Courthouse.
William Michael Corrin of Derby Road returned to work after a stroke despite claiming incapacity benefit and income support. The 56-year-old was sentenced at Douglas Courthouse after previously pleading guilty to 10 benefit fraud offences. These included 3 of making false representations to obtain taxpayer-funded support and 7 of failing to inform Treasury that his circumstances had changed. Between May 2017 and March 2022, Corrin continued to work within the construction industry, despite holding a medical certificate advising that he was unsuitable for manual work. It meant he was overpaid £31,174.36. Corrin's advocate told the court that his client's claim hadn't been fraudulent from the outset because he'd suffered a stroke in 2016, which had left him totally paralysed down one side. However, he accepted that Corrin had continued to receive benefits despite returning to work for multiple companies over the 5-year period. He's always wanted to work, the advocate told the court, but added Corrin had become accustomed to both receiving benefits and wages. He's always worried about these offences, the advocate added. He has taken it seriously. Imposing a 22-week custodial sentence, which will be suspended for 2 years, Deputy High Bailiff Rachel Braidwood described it as a substantial overpayment. Ordering him to pay £125 in prosecution costs, she told Corrin, "It's quite clear you didn't need the money from the benefits." The court was also told Corrin hasn't yet repaid any of the money, which was overpaid.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio Sport.
Faster my Darren Timson and first sports editor Rob Pritchard.
Faster my, good evening. Starting with athletics, and a strong on-island performance this weekend has seen Manx racewalker Erica Kelly rise to the top of the UK 10km racewalk rankings for 2023 so far. As part of the Isle of Man 20km racewalking championships at the NSC on Saturday, Kelly took part in the 10km supporting racewalk and completed it in a time of 48 minutes 24 seconds. That time puts Kelly top of the UK racewalking standings over that distance so far this year by around 3 minutes.
In motorsport, Manx sidecar racers Ryan and Callum Crowe are hoping to secure a place in the FIM World Sidecar Championship next year if they're able to secure the right funding. That's according to the Crowe Racing team, which has taken to social media to say they've enjoyed a successful 2023 season. Dartford goes on to say that once again they plan to compete at the Isle of Man TT and Southern 100 road races again in 2024. The Derby duo secured another TT podium this year in sidecar TT Race 2. Meanwhile, Callum has already made an appearance at the World Championship this season when he was passenger to Ben Birchall last month at the race in Assen in the Netherlands. That weekend he deputised for Tom Birchall, who missed that event due to injury.
And in cycling, it was a positive outing today for the respective teams of Manx competitors Matthew Bostock and Max Walker in round 3 of the 2023 Tour of Britain this afternoon. They, along with the rest of the field, had to navigate a 154.7km route in East Yorkshire from Goole to Beverley. Both Bostock and Walker's squads managed to get their sprinters into the top 10 come the finish. Rory Townsend, Bostock's teammate at Bolton Equities Blackspoke, came home in 9th, whilst Walker's fellow rider at Trinity Racing, Robert Donaldson, went better than that, finishing 7th. The latest result means Walker's Trinity Racing squad now find themselves in 2nd place in the team standings after the 3rd round, whilst Bostock's team reside in 16th.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 10 to 8 Loganair from London City on time, 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool on time. You guessed it. The 8:15 inbound from Gatwick is 20 minutes late, so outbound still got a delay on the 5:30 EasyJet to Liverpool, not due out until about now. Then the 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool on time, and the 8:45 EasyJet to Gatwick delayed till 9:05 on the roads. Hillside Avenue Douglas closed for adjacent office window replacement till the middle of June next year. Temporary lights back in on Victoria Road at the Falcon Cliff Terrace junction for water main work. Falcon Cliff Terrace is also closed. Elsewhere in Douglas, Mona Drive's closed between Empire Drive and Victoria Road for sewer lining works. That work at Ballabrewy Drive, by the way, due to start yesterday, is postponed till a week tomorrow, the 13th of September. The closure between Devonshire Road and Ballabrewy Way for gas main work is postponed till a week tomorrow. In Foxdale, Garth Road's closed between Foxdale Road and Tossaby Road. East Quay Peel closed between the House of Manannan and the Road Bridge. In St John's, temporary lights between Ballacrane and Ballig Bridge. Temporary lights in Kirkmichael on the main road through Kirkmichael for work on the road surface. Temporary lights on West Quay Ramsey, emergency work on the harbour wall. And temporary lights on Richmond Road Ramsey for pavement work. And remember, the Newcastle Town Road is closed tonight between 6:30 and midnight from Spring Valley Roundabout to the Mount Murray Back Road.
H&Hmotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
Yeah, Tom Jones weather. It's not unusual. This weather we've been experiencing is unseasonable, but not that unusual, so say Ronaldsway Met Office, as we saw temperatures upwards of 23.5 degrees on the Isle of Man. Max Radio's Lewis Foster spoke to Met man Neil Young.
It's unusual, but not that unusual. It's certainly not the hottest September day we've got. Saying that, it is probably the 3rd warmest September day so far. The hottest September day was 1991.
I'm Lewis
26.5, 2016, 24.5. So far today, we've had 23.5, so it does make it the 3rd warmest September day so far. The reason for the very warm temperatures is the moderate easterly wind, so that's bringing air off the continent, so it's come across Britain, across the continent. Because there's a bit of a breeze, it doesn't actually cool down quite as much as it can do as it passes over the sea. Sea temperatures are around 16 now, so probably just about at the warmest for the time of year anyway. And there is some very warm air. It isn't going to last that long, unfortunately, but very pleasant while it is here. And as I said, the reason is high pressure is situated over Germany, so the airflow around that high is actually coming ultimately across the continent. Actually, it's coming up, the air that's coming to us is coming up from the Mediterranean, so very warm. not really cooling off. So as it is unusual, not exceptional.
And you were saying it might not stick around for too long. How long can we expect this for?
Certainly another good day tomorrow, maybe not quite as warm. As we move into Thursday, there's a very slim chance of a shower, but very few and far between, turning a little bit more unsettled as we move probably into the latter part of the weekend.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
A memorial service is being held for the families of people lost in the Brig Lily shipwreck in Port St Mary. Commissioner Bernadette Williams tells of the plaque which has been dedicated to the 29 men from the village who were killed whilst attempting to save the boat from sinking.
It's so important because the amount of lives that were impacted by it. It's the ship, the Brig Lily, struck Kitterland on the 27th of November 1852 and 5 men were lost. However, the following day, the ship, which had been carrying gunpowder, exploded. So during an attempt to salvage the cargo, that's when that happened. So the explosion was heard from 18 miles away, I believe, and because I wasn't actually there, and it devastated Port St Mary. So there were 29 men from Port St Mary lost their lives during that second explosion, leaving 22 widows and 77 orphans. So you can imagine it was a huge impact. The plaque for the Brig Lily was originally in the mariners' shelter on the breakwater, and several years ago now there was a storm and the mariners' shelter was blown away and the plaque was damaged and really beyond repair. So it lay in the stonemason's yard in Castletown for many years, and it was Tony Brown from Castletown that brought it to my attention. So I had a look and I spoke to the stonemason there, and then I came back to the board and discussed it with the board, and we agreed to have a new plaque made because the other was beyond redemption. And on the 10th of this month, we're having the new plaque blessed in the Garden of Remembrance. We felt that was an appropriate place where descendants of those that were lost, so they can come and sit and remember their ancestors and ensure that the tragedy of the Brig Lily is not forgotten.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Dave Moore, producer Rhianne Evans. Stick around. Countryside with Kiri Kermode and Simon Clark. The greatest hits with Chris Kinley. Tuesday, So the Folk Show with John Barker and Dave Moore after hours at 10 tonight. I'm back tomorrow.
WINT